Questions follow Jesus wherever he goes, especially from those who are trying to understand why his way doesn't look like the one they've always known. They ask him why his disciples don't fast the way others do, why the rhythms feel different, why what he's building doesn't fit neatly into the spiritual structures they've learned to trust. The question underneath the question is familiar. Why doesn't this look the way we expect it to? Jesus listens, and instead of correcting them directly, he begins to speak in images that take a moment to settle. He talks about weddings and joy, about how there are seasons when celebration makes more sense than restraint, and about what happens when you try to patch something worn with material that hasn't yet softened. He speaks of wine still alive and expanding, pressing outward as it ferments, and of skins that have already done their job, grown rigid with use, and can no longer stretch without tearing. New wine, he says, needs new wineskins. What he is bringing cannot be contained by forms that were shaped for a different season, and what is alive and growing will eventually strain anything that has lost its flexibility. It isn't that the old ways were bad or useless. They served their purpose well, but they were never meant to carry what is coming next. Beneath the imagery is a quieter truth that lingers long after the conversation ends. Healing isn't only about being made better. It's about becoming able to receive what God is doing now. Reflection. There are ways of holding life together that once made everything feel manageable. Habits that kept emotions contained, structures that helped you stay functional, patterns that prevented things from spilling over when the pressure was high and the margin was thin. They weren't wrong, they were protective. But protection over time can harden into something that resists change, not because change is bad, but because staying the same feels safer than loosening your grip. What once preserved stability can quietly become exhausting when growth begins pressing from the inside. Jesus doesn't criticize the old wineskins. He doesn't ask them to stretch beyond what they can bear. He simply tells the truth. New life needs room. Healing often arrives not as a dramatic interruption, but as a steady pressure that exposes where control has taken the place of trust, where managing outcomes has become more familiar than receiving grace. It shows up when holding everything together requires more effort than it should, and something in you knows that the cost of staying rigid is beginning to outweigh the risk of softening. The invitation is not to force change or rush the process. It is to allow yourself to become receptive again, to let God reshape the places that have grown stiff with responsibility and self-protection, and to trust that what He is pouring out is not meant to destroy you, but to make you whole. Healing doesn't demand that you let go all at once. It asks for space and a willingness to be made new.